Welcome to today's deep dive. We're unpacking a really fascinating stack of notes you sent us on the behaviorist approach to learning.
Yeah, we're looking to understand exactly why we do the things we do.
Right, so let's jump right in. What's the core premise we're looking at here?
Well, the central idea is that all behavior is learned purely through conditioning. Basically, behaviorism completely rejects unobservable mental processes.
Like thoughts and emotions.
Exactly. It doesn't care about your internal thoughts at all. Instead, it strictly focuses on observable behaviors, using these highly controlled lab experiments to gather hard quantitative data.
So I saw Pavlov mentioned in the notes, the famous guy with the dogs. How exactly does that prove all behavior is learned?
Right. So Pavlov demonstrated classical conditioning, which is essentially learning by association. He paired a neutral stimulus, like a bell, with an unconditioned stimulus, which in this case was food.
And food naturally makes dogs drool.
Yes, it does. But eventually, just by pairing them together repeatedly, he could trigger the dogs to salivate just by ringing the bell alone.
So it's kind of like feeling hungry the second you walk into a movie theater, before you even smell the popcorn.
Yeah,
Just because you associate the physical place with the food?
spot on. But what's really fascinating here is how critical the timing is in that process.
Oh, like if there's too much of a delay.
Right. If you wait too long between ringing the bell and presenting the food, the conditioning just won't happen. And if you ring the bell too many times without the food following it, you get what researchers call extinction.
Extinction. So the learned response just fades away entirely.
Exactly. Now, Pavlov trained dogs with a bell, but dogs drooling is an involuntary reflex. When we talk about the choices we actually decide to make, we get into operant conditioning.
Which is learning through consequences, right?
Yes, learning through consequences. The fundamental rule is simple. A behavior followed by a pleasant consequence gets repeated. But just like with the dogs, timing is everything. The consequence has to be immediate.
Okay, wait. I need to get this straight because the notes break this down into positive and negative reinforcement and then positive and negative punishment. It's honestly a lot to keep straight.
It can be tricky, yeah. Let's frame it this way. Reinforcement always increases a behavior, while punishment always decreases a behavior. Positive means adding something, and negative means taking something away.
Okay, so if I take away a teenager's phone for breaking curfew, what is that?
That would be negative punishment. You're taking away the phone, which removes something pleasant, to decrease the curfew-breaking behavior.
Ah, I see. So negative reinforcement isn't a punishment at all.
Not at all. A great example of negative reinforcement is taking an aspirin. It removes something unpleasant, like your headache, which actually increases the likelihood you'll take an aspirin again next time.
That makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
And these aren't just abstract lab theories either, right?
Not at all. They have tremendous real-world value. We see them applied everywhere, from behavior therapy treating severe phobias to token economies.
Like when a teacher gives out gold stars that kids can trade in for a prize.
Exactly. Those behavior modification programs in schools rely entirely on this.
But the sources also highlight some major pushback to this approach. There's this critique called environmental reductionism. What does that actually mean for us?
Critics argue that behaviorism boils absolutely everything down to simple stimulus-response links. It basically says your deep love for your partner or your crippling anxiety about a presentation are nothing more than biological algorithms responding to inputs.
It kind of strips the romance and complexity out of being human.
It really does. But there's a counter perspective in your notes, too. This reductionism is actually seen as a major scientific advantage.
Because stripping away the messy stuff lets them test things.
Exactly. When researchers strip away the unobservable stuff like feelings and thoughts, they can run highly controlled experiments. They can map out clear cause and effect relationships and get highly reliable scientific results.
There's one detail in the research that really surprised me, though. It's that it's often incredibly difficult to even distinguish between classical and operant conditioning in practice.
It is surprisingly hard. Think about those classic experiments with pigeons in a Skinner box. That's a little controlled cage where they press a lever for food.
Right.
Are the pigeons actually being operantly reinforced for the physical action of pressing the lever, or are they simply classically conditioning themselves to associate the physical lever with the arrival of food?
Wow. So the line between an involuntary association and a learned consequence gets really blurred.
It's blurry.
Looking at all of this together, behaviorism gives us a really powerful lens. We learn through classical associations and operant consequences.
Yeah.
Reinforcements build our habits up, while punishments tear them down.
So when you go about your day tomorrow, it's worth reflecting on your own life. What pleasant or unpleasant consequences are actively shaping your daily habits right now?
And we'll leave you with one final thought to mull over. If our observable behaviors can be so predictably shaped by simple reinforcements and punishments, how might the algorithms on our smartphones be quietly using these exact behaviorist principles to condition our digital habits without us even realizing it?